I was 24 when I signed the lease on my first warehouse, and I still remember the way the dust hung in the air like it was waiting for me to prove something. The concrete floors echoed with my footsteps, and every box I hauled in felt like a promise, mostly to myself, but also to the people who had raised me. Before that, it was me, a rusted-out truck, and a garage that could barely hold a treadmill. I lived in that garage for nearly 2 years, slept on an air mattress wedged between pallets of dumbbells and resistance bands, showered at the rec center down the road, ate protein bars like they were a food group. I wasn't building a company. I was clawing my way out of the silence that surrounded being average. My parents were proud in the way people are when they don't quite understand what you're doing but like the idea of it. My mom, Vivienne, would say things like, "We always knew you'd do something with your hands," as if hauling steel racks and barbell plates was destiny. My dad, Gareth, offered his old gym contacts, but spent more time reminding me about his back injury than asking how the business was doing. Still, I paid their electric bill when it got shut off, picked up the slack when the water heater broke. At first it felt temporary just until they got back on their feet, but their feet never quite seemed to land. Every call ended the same way. "We hate to ask, but—" and I always said yes. Sabrina, my sister, was another story. 2 years younger, full of ambition, but allergic to follow-through. She cycled through careers like seasons esthetician, event planner, Reiki healer. Each venture started with excitement and a financial crisis. I paid for her certification classes, helped her get out of lease contracts, even bailed her out of credit card debt. My name was never on the thank you cards, only the invoices. No one told me I had to do it. They didn't need to. Family helps family. That was the story we told ourselves. And I was the only one who kept repeating it even as it started to sound less like love and more like an obligation disguised as virtue. Looking back, it was never one big moment that changed everything. It was the quiet erosion of knowing you're always expected to show up even when no one else does. By the time I turned 26, I was paying my parents' mortgage in full. Not just the late fees or a couple hundred to hold them over, I mean every month like clockwork $300 wired from my account to theirs. My dad always sounded sheepish when he brought it up. Just until we catch up, he'd say, though he hadn't held a steady job since I graduated high school. His back pain came and went, depending on who was watching, but it always seemed to flare up when the word work entered the conversation. Utilities followed. Car insurance, property taxes, groceries. It became normal. They stopped asking and just started forwarding the bills. Sabrina never even tried to hide it. "Hey, Dee, can you Venmo me $200? I'll explain later." She rarely did. If I pushed, she'd spiral something about anxiety, the stress of trying to find herself, how I didn't understand how hard things were for her. And somehow I'd end up apologizing. She once completed a full month at a retail job, and my mom hosted a family dinner to celebrate. When I landed a statewide distribution contract that took me 6 months of negotiations and nearly tanked my inventory margins, they didn't mention it. We sat down to dinner, and my mom opened with, "Did you hear Sabrina's thinking of going back to school?" My father nodded, proud. "It's never too late to pursue your passion." I said nothing and passed the rolls. I told myself I didn't need their validation, that my warehouse expansions, my growing client list, my team of 30 employees, all of that spoke for itself. But the truth was quieter. It lingered when I got off the phone with my accountant and wanted someone to say they were proud. It echoed when I walked into empty offices after landing a new contract. I told myself this was adulthood. That silence was the price of independence. And then I met Elena. It wasn't fireworks at first. She was practical, grounded. A physical therapist for pro and collegiate athletes with a head full of anatomy facts and a voice that could steady chaos. We met at a fitness expo of all places. She asked about the grip pattern on one of my new barbell lines. I said something stupid about torque, and she countered with studies on wrist stability. I was hooked. We started slow coffee, a concert dinner after her late shifts. I kept the family stuff under wraps for the first few months. I'd gotten good at that smiling through stress, covering my own tracks. But it slipped through one evening when I had to cancel our plans because my mom's emergency dental work couldn't wait, and Sabrina's car had broken down the same day. Elena just looked at me calm but curious and said, "Is this normal for you?" I laughed at the time, but her question followed me home. Callan came into our lives on a rainy Wednesday morning in late March, and with him a kind of silence I hadn't known I was missing. Not the kind I'd grown up with, cold and expectant, but a full, steady quiet, like the world finally had weight and rhythm. Holding him for the first time, I felt something shift in my spine. Not fear, not pressure, but a vow I didn't say out loud: I won't pass this on. Elena's parents were hands-on from day one. Diaper runs, late-night rocking shifts, casserole drop-offs like clockwork. No drama, no what do we get in return, just love wrapped in action. My parents, though, were distant. They posted a photo when he was born, called once or twice, but always had a reason they couldn't visit. My dad's back, my mom's allergies. Sabrina was going through something and needed support. The message was always clear: Callan was our responsibility, not theirs. Then came the meeting. A national fitness retailer, huge, the kind of contract that could triple our revenue. We'd been courting them for 6 months, and they'd finally agreed to a sit-down. 1 hour. That's all I needed. That same morning, our nanny called out sick. Daycare had a bug going around, and Elena had to fly to Chicago last minute to treat a pro baseball player recovering from surgery. We needed someone to watch Callan for one night. I called my mom, assuming this would be easy. He just needs dinner, a bath, and bed. We'll pick him up first thing. She laughed like I'd asked her to fly to the moon. Declan, we're not babysitters. We raised our kids already. The words sank like stones. I didn't argue, just hung up, sat there in my suit, staring at the wall. 5 years of mortgage payments, car repairs, property taxes, Sabrina's tuition. And now, when I asked for one favor, I was dismissed like a stranger asking too much. Something didn't sit right, a gut feeling I couldn't shake. So I got in the truck and drove straight to their house. Sabrina's car was parked out front. I didn't knock, just walked in. There they were, my parents, on the living room floor playing with Sabrina's kids. She was on the couch scrolling her phone, barely looking up. My mom's face went pale. "Declan, what are you doing here?" And that was the moment I knew something had broken for good. I stood there in the doorway for a long second, just watching them. My mother on the floor stacking blocks with Sabrina's youngest. My father laughing like he hadn't spent the last 5 years complaining about his back. Sabrina draped across the couch I'd bought them 3 Christmases ago, scrolling without a care in the world. "I thought you weren't babysitters," I said. My mother blinked, scrambling to her feet. "Declan, this is different. Sabrina's had a migraine all day. She just needed to rest." I looked at Sabrina. She didn't even bother glancing up. "Some of us actually need help sometimes," she muttered. "Not all of us can be perfect like you." I walked into the room and set my phone on the coffee table, opened the banking app, pulled up the totals. "Let's talk about help," I said, keeping my voice even. "Over the last 5 years, I've paid you mom and dad roughly $170,000, mortgage, utilities, car payments, medical bills, and that doesn't include Sabrina's yoga classes, failed storefronts, or whatever scheme she abandoned last month." Silence. Sabrina finally sat up. "Must be nice," she said, "to have that kind of money and hold it over everyone." "That money was never the problem," I said. "It's what it cost me. The guilt, The constant pressure. The fact that every time I needed even a sliver of support, you had an excuse. My dad stood up, arms crossed. Now, son, let's not act like we didn't raise you. I taught you everything you know. I actually laughed. You taught me how to wrap my hands before a sparring match. I taught myself how to run a business while you were too injured to lift a wrench, but healthy enough to golf twice a week. My mother's eyes welled up. You're making us sound like terrible parents. You don't need my help with that, I said. What exactly have you done for me lately, aside from reminding me I'm the only one who's supposed to show up? You're being dramatic, my dad muttered. I shook my head. No, I'm being clear. I thought I was helping family, but I see it now. I've been enabling parasites. Sabrina's jaw dropped. You're such a jerk, Declan. I turned, picking up my phone. That may be, but at least I'm finally honest about who you are. No one followed me out the door. No one tried to stop me. I walked to the truck, shut the door, and sat still for a moment. My hands were steady, my heart strangely calm, and I knew this wasn't the end. Not yet. I didn't sleep that night. Elena got back from Chicago around midnight and found me at the kitchen table with a stack of bank statements and a legal pad filled with numbers. She didn't ask what happened, just poured 2 cups of coffee and sat down beside me. By morning, I had it mapped out, every dollar, every transaction, every loan that was never repaid. At 9 sharp, I called my accountant. By 10, I was in his office with printouts, passwords, and a pen in my hand. When he saw the final total, he leaned back in his chair, eyebrows raised. Declan, he said slowly, this is more than some people spend raising 3 kids. Yeah, I said, and none of them are mine. He helped me organize it all, gifted versus lent, categorized by year. Then I called my lawyer. Not for revenge, just protection. I knew what was coming. People like my parents don't go quietly. That same afternoon, I shut it all down. Auto payments, cell phone plans, insurance, even the emergency credit card they'd borrowed for Sabrina's wellness retreat. I sent one text. You're on your own now. Please don't contact me again. Then I blocked every number. Landline, cell, email. The silence didn't last. Within hours, my work phone lit up with missed calls. My receptionist forwarded 3 voicemails from my mother. By the next morning, her Facebook post was making the rounds, a long-winded, tearful message about how her successful son abandoned his struggling family in their time of need. Comment after comment echoed the same tired phrases. Family is everything. Money changes people. He'll regret this. I didn't reply, not at first, but when I saw my dad chime in with some half-baked defense about how he taught me everything I know, I snapped. I opened my laptop, attached the receipts, itemized lists, payment screenshots, messages from Sabrina asking for money just one more time. I wrote one caption. In the interest of transparency, here's what really happened. I didn't argue, I didn't accuse, I just posted the truth. The fallout was immediate. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years messaged me privately, some apologizing, some admitting they'd had their own suspicions. My inbox overflowed, not with demands this time, but silence. For the first time, they had nothing to say. And I wasn't done yet. Within 2 weeks, the cracks started to show. My mother stopped posting photos of brunches and weekend shopping trips. My father's golf group quietly faded from his profile. And then, through a friend who managed a local gym, I heard that Gareth, my dad, had walked in, asking if they were hiring. Didn't he have some kind of back injury? My friend asked, half joking. I didn't answer. I just nodded and thanked him for the heads up. A few days later, I passed Applebee's on my way to the warehouse. There was my mother Vivian standing near the hostess stand in a black blouse and a name tag, smiling politely at a group of customers. She didn't see me. I didn't stop. Sabrina was next. Apparently her ex had seen the Facebook post, too. Or maybe someone sent it to him. Either way, he took it straight to his lawyer. With proof that she'd lied about receiving help from me, the custody arrangement was reopened. Her story didn't hold up under scrutiny. Judges don't like liars, especially ones who use their kids to pad their bank accounts. She lost the primary slot, lost her apartment, and moved back in with my parents. 3 adults, 2 kids, 1 house, none of them working full-time. The mortgage I'd once carried quietly every month now fell behind. I saw the notice posted on their door when I drove by one morning. The place I'd kept running like clockwork without ever living in it was now heading for foreclosure. They tried one more time to rope me back in. A letter this time, handwritten. My dad's handwriting, not my mom's. He must have thought it would carry more weight. He talked about legacy, about blood, about how families weather storms. He didn't mention Callan, didn't ask how Elena was doing. Just underlined the word family 3 times, like that still meant something. I didn't reply. They had told themselves for years that I would always be there no matter what, that I might get angry, pull back for a while, but eventually come back around, because I was the good son, because I always did. But not this time. I had already missed too many dinners with my wife, too many quiet nights with my son, too many chances to live a life that didn't require me to pay for other people's choices. And the more distance I put between us, the clearer everything became. The quiet that followed wasn't empty. It was full of mornings with Callan, of warm dinners where I wasn't checking my phone for another urgent request, of weekends that belonged to us. I didn't realize how much space they'd taken up until I finally had it back. I redirected the money. The mortgage payments that used to vanish into someone else's home now built Callan's college fund. The utilities I once covered without thanks became capital for a second warehouse. Elena and I started planning a vacation, not a rushed weekend or a work trip, but a real break. It felt foreign, even a little indulgent, but she just smiled and said, "This is what life's supposed to feel like." The letters didn't stop immediately. My mother sent a long email about how she was worried I was becoming cold, followed by a photo of Sabrina's kids, and the words, "Your family misses you." I didn't reply. I read it once and deleted it. I didn't need to defend my silence. I had earned it. Then came the messages from cousins and second aunts, people who'd believed the narrative for years. A few apologized outright. Some admitted they'd always suspected something was off. "I didn't know they were putting all that on you," one cousin wrote. "I'm sorry I didn't reach out sooner. I told her it was okay that I hadn't been ready to talk then anyway." That part was true. The guilt when it came wasn't sharp. It was more like a dull ache, the kind that sits in your chest when something's ended but not buried. But even that began to fade. Because guilt only grows in silence, and I'd already spoken the truth. Watching Callan chase birds at the park or drag sticks across the sidewalk, I kept thinking, this is what it means to be a father. Not just showing up, but shielding him from the weight of dysfunction, giving him a foundation built on intention, not obligation. And when Elena leaned into me one afternoon and whispered, "You're different now," I didn't disagree. I felt it too, because for the first time in my life, I wasn't just surviving the people who raised me. I was becoming someone new. One Saturday morning, I took Callan to the park. The air was crisp, the kind of autumn breeze that makes everything feel sharper somehow. He ran ahead, chasing a soccer ball across the grass, laughing without hesitation, without weight. I sat on the bench and watched him, really watched him. No phone buzzing in my pocket, no background calculations running through my head about who needed what from me next. Just him, free and wild and loud, like every child deserves to be. Elena was nearby, reading on a blanket, legs tucked beneath her, occasionally glancing up with that easy smile I never get tired of. She hadn't said much about the fallout. She didn't need to. Her silence was never passive. It was knowing. She saw every moment I carried too much and waited until I could see it too. As Kalen kicked the ball and fell down, laughing, I thought about the version of me he would remember. Would he see the man who put everyone else first? The one who mistook sacrifice for love? Or would he know the difference between duty and dignity? Because I finally did, I'd grown up believing that family meant surrender. That loyalty looked like silence. That love required giving until you disappeared. But sitting there watching my son wipe dirt off his knees and look for the ball again, I knew that wasn't the legacy I wanted to pass on. I wanted him to know boundaries aren't betrayal. That saying no doesn't make you cold. That love, real love, never asks you to give up who you are just to earn a place at the table. I wanted him to live in a world where choosing peace didn't come with guilt. And maybe that's the hardest part of unlearning what you thought was normal, realizing the people who taught you how to love also taught you how to disappear. They taught me what not to become, and that's the only gift I'll keep.